Good afternoon, everybody. Very warm welcome to this Tuesday afternoon armchair presentation, where today we're joined by the beautiful Alexandra in beautiful Melbourne, where it's actually Perth weather today, I believe. Hi, Alex. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks, Barry. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Now, very much a big thank you for giving up your afternoon, particularly on Melbourne Cup, which is a huge day in Victoria, of course. But you've got something really exciting to share, and I'm sure our travellers will be very keen to see some of the incredible all-inclusive packages that Hurtigruten are launching to the Australian market. This is not available anywhere else in the world. It's only for Australia, so that's a great testament to the support that you get down here. But I'm not going to waste any time. I'm going to hand over straight over to you, and you can tell us all about your 3 ships that are in Antarctica and all of the great all-inclusive nature of the packages that you're offering.
Amazing. Thanks, Barry, and good afternoon, everybody. Yes, I'm joining you from sunny Melbourne. I was just saying that we are having Perth weather today. It's about 30 degrees, and like you enjoying this presentation from your armchair, we were also enjoying the Melbourne Cup from ours. So more than happy to jump on today and tell you all about some exciting things that we have happening at Hurtigruten. So a little bit about us if you aren't aware. So Hurtigruten is an exploration company, and in the truest sense of that. So we are the world leader in sustainable exploration travel in the polar regions. From our home in Norway, right through to the high Arctic, the Northwest Passage, and all the way down to Antarctica, we offer unique experiences and impart knowledge in a way that leaves the smallest environmental footprint possible. We're also proud to say that we are the world's greenest cruise fleet. So who is Hurtigruten? We have been operating for over 127 years, and you may know us from the coast of Norway. That's where we originated, and we still to this day operate daily services along the coast of Norway, from Bergen through to Kirkenes. Bergen to Kirkenes and along the coast of Norway is very similar to what you might see along the coast of Chile. So after exploring Norway and having that confidence going up to the high Arctic to Svalbard, we wanted to broaden our expedition program. So we looked at where else we could travel to, and originally the thought was to go down to Chile and explore the coast, and then we thought, well, whilst we're down there, why not branch out to Antarctica? So the first sighting of Antarctica occurred back in 1820. And then from the late 1800s and up to the mid 20th century, many expeditions followed. Mainly these were marine explorations, and in the same period, sealers and whalers from all over Europe started hunting in various parts of Antarctica and the sub-Antarctic islands. Between 1900 and 1916, this period is known as the heroic age of Antarctic exploration, and it was in fact Norwegian explorer Roald Amundsen, who we do have a ship named after, who won the race to the South Pole on December 14th, 1911. 91 years later, in 2002, Hurtigruten started exploring Antarctica. So that is when we ventured into Antarctica in 2002, and we are now the world's largest operator in Antarctica with 3 vessels down there. And as I mentioned, we have the greenest fleet out there. Hurtigruten's history of environmental sustainability is second to none, and we have numerous firsts. So starting with green technology, back in 2019 and earlier this year, we launched the world's first hybrid-powered expedition ships, the MS Roald Amundsen and the MS Fridtjof Nansen. So with those, they are based around green technology. They're running on hybrid power, battery power, LNG, and biofuel. You can also sail up to 30 minutes in complete silence on these ships. So imagine sailing through Antarctica, icebergs all around, in complete silence. We were the first cruise company to also ban the use of heavy toxic fuel oils across our entire fleet. That was back 8 years ago. We were also the first cruise company to ban single-use plastics on all of our ships, and we have a focus on giving back. So we're engaged with all of our communities in the remote and off the beaten path destinations that we do sail to make sure that we contribute to helping them and not view these places as living museums for us to exploit. We want to immerse ourselves and not take over. So as I mentioned, we were the first cruise company to completely ban single-use plastics. 32,000 tons of plastic were removed in the first 6 months of that project. So it's unbelievable to know how we managed to do that. We engaged with our existing supply chain, we changed their thinking, and also got them to change their operations as well, and look forward to that. We source food ethically and locally to make sure that we're, again, helping the communities along the way. We do beach cleanups, which I had the fortune of doing earlier this year on the MS Fridtjof Nansen. So in some of our destinations that we sail to, again, we want to leave it better than we left it, and we clean up our beaches, and we partner with different companies around the world to do a half day or a morning cleanup, again, to give back to where we're traveling to. So Antarctica, let's go into what we're going to explore. So why discover Antarctica? Never mind the bragging rights. Here are some of the reasons that you should hop on an Antarctic cruise and head towards the South Pole. So we do have, of course, the endless adventure. Because Antarctica is so far and has such extreme weather, very few people have ever visited the continent at all. This means that your vacation will make you a part of the continent's history. When you travel to most places, you're looking at something that has already been built and established, whereas in Antarctica, you are part of the history. We're getting you close to nature with unbelievable wildlife experiences and nature experiences. We've got the trusted experience. So Hurtigruten's trusted experience sailing in polar waters brings you safely to the most remote continent on Earth. Unmatched wilderness. So Antarctica is the driest, coldest, highest and cleanest continent on Earth, and we want you to explore it unlike any other destination. And you can choose your expedition. You can do as much or as little as you like. You can go for as long or as short as you like. It really is up to you. So meet our fleet, the ships that we do have sailing to Antarctica. So the two hybrid vessels that I did touch on are the MS Roald Amundsen and the MS Fridtjof Nansen. Hurtigruten is the operator with the lowest CO2 emissions out of all expedition vessels to Antarctica, which I think is something to be extremely proud of. With these ships, modern, hybrid, and inspired by our Scandinavian heritage, the MS Roald Amundsen and the MS Fridtjof Nansen set a completely new industry standard as the world's first hybrid electric powered expedition cruise ships. These revolutionary ships are packed with green technology and are the backbone of the greenest and most advanced fleet of expedition ships that the travel industry has ever seen. Named after two of Norway's most famous explorers, these state-of-the-art ships will follow suit and explore some of the most remote destinations of the world. They do take up to 500 passengers, so you've got two options here. There's 50% more suites with balcony, 3 gourmet restaurants, Auna, Fredheim and Lindström. There's a swimming pool, 2 jacuzzis, sauna, a panoramic sauna, gym and spa, the world-class science center, which we do take pride in, and we also have underwater drones that you can take out and you can put the VR goggles on and see what is underwater. And of course, the modern Scandinavian design and comfort. None of these ships have inside cabins, so cabins without windows. They all start from what we call a polar outside cabin and above. They are identical to one another, but they do operate different itineraries. Our ships are built to also go pole to pole. So these ships do circumnavigate. So the Roald Amundsen will also do some of our Alaskan itineraries and the Northwest Passage, and the Fridtjof Nansen will do our Greenland itineraries along with traveling down to Antarctica. So you'll see that they do circumnavigate. If you're looking for a longer cruise experience and also perhaps a smaller vessel, then we do also have the MS Fram. Fram means forward, which lifts the expectations of the voyage at hand. MS Fram was built in 2007 with one mission in mind: to bring her guests closer to nature, wildlife, and unforgettable experiences. The spacious outside decks include access to the very front of the ship, which is a great place to observe marine wildlife. The ship is purpose-built as an expedition vessel with a higher ice class. It also has chart drawing tools, ship depth sounding database. It can also have iceberg searchlights, so when it is nighttime you can look out, autonomous tracking system, and also an oversized oil retention system for self-sufficiency. So it only takes 200 passengers to Antarctica, and it does our ultimate expedition, so out to South Georgia and the Falklands. And it also has 2 of the restaurants. It still has a hot tub. It's got a sauna, the wellness area, and flexible sleeping arrangements for most cabins. So what that means is it can either be a double or a twin share cabin. We have all cabin categories ranging from inside cabins up to expedition suites on the Fram also. The Fram will also do our Iceland itineraries, and a few others. So also built to circumnavigate. So what is included in your expedition with Hurtigruten? Now this goes across all of our expedition destinations. But in particular to Antarctica, on all of our ships, you have breakfast, lunch, and dinner daily. So all meals are included. We have our main restaurant, Auna, which is served in breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You've got Fredheim, which can be a bit more of a casual, relaxed international dining. So think burgers or tacos, milkshakes, and that can go in for lunch and dinner. And then we also have Lindstrom, which is our fine dining restaurant. So Lindstrom is available at any time of day for our suite guests. And for our other guests, there is a surcharge that you can dine in Lindstrom, which is only about €25. Beer and wine is also included over your lunch and dinner service. So that's included in your fare when you book an Antarctica trip or an expedition trip with Hurtigruten. You also receive a complimentary expedition jacket. So if you see the people kayaking at the bottom of the picture, they're wearing red jackets with the yellow hoods. They are the jackets that you get complimentary to bring home with you, and also a reusable aluminium water bottle. You get loan of all boots, trekking poles, and any equipment that's needed. So the rubber boots are mandatory for any expedition voyages to Antarctica and also Northeast Greenland. So guests can borrow a pair of high quality rubber boots, and we leave these in your cabin. They are free of charge, and that way that we can clean them and make sure no nasties are either taken on shore into Antarctica or also brought back on board. They are quite insulated as well, but we do recommend obviously that you bring as many layers as possible. We do have packing lists that we can provide to you before you do travel to somewhere like Antarctica. We have engaging onboard activities. There's recreation and relaxation activities. You've got lectures on board. These can be viewed either in your cabin or they can be viewed down in the hall. And we do different talks on board. We have the science center at your leisure. So there is a lot available for you on the duration of your expedition. Landings in Antarctica. So what are you going to see whilst you're there? We call all destinations where guests can go out from the ship a landing. So landings will definitely depend on weather, and the final program will be shown on board through the TV screens, either in your room or around the ship. So this is why we definitely call it an expedition, because anything can change at any time. Harbour or landing sites can change because of that, because of the weather, because of wildlife. So every ship does do landings differently, and any itinerary that you do see are attempted itineraries. We do have one landing per day in the MS Roald Amundsen and the Fridtjof Nansen. And because of the size of the MS Fram, she will do mostly 2 landings per day because the timing and destinations are different. If you are booking your cabin and you do like to see a little bit of activity, I'd always recommend that you book on the port side of the ship, as the tender pit is on that side. So you can actually look out from your cabin. You can see people coming and going if you're not due to travel out yet from the ship. With the possible landing sites, so as I said, these are expedition cruises, so weather, tides, ice conditions, and wildlife sightings can definitely affect day-to-day itineraries, but we base our itinerary around what we want you to see. If we think that something is worth going to visit, then we will delay a meal time to make sure that you have the opportunity to see wildlife or particular sites. Completing successful landings, of course, requires experience, and at Hurtigruten we have over 125 years of it. So from our tender pits, which is a small pier folded out from the side of the ship, you will then board small rubber boats that hold up to 20 people that take you then ashore. Before you land, we make sure to follow a few simple principles to make sure that you run smoothly. You can only have 100 people on the ice in Antarctica at any given time. So the best way that we do that is that guests are divided into boat groups of approximately 40 guests. And to make it easier for you to remember which group you're in, we name them after animals in Antarctica. So you might be part of the albatross group or the penguin group or the krill group, and that way you know which group you're a part of. Guests are then called by name over the ship's loudspeakers, and that's to avoid lines, so you know when you're scheduled to go. And you'll receive a patch with the animal of the group that you've been nominated to go onto your expedition jacket. Groups are put together by the expedition coordinator by language first. Friends and family also stay together, and any special requests can be accepted. We just need to be made aware of that beforehand. You can eat whenever you want. So because we do know that expeditions can take a bit of time, we pretty much run the food service all day. We want to make sure that when you've come back from a busy morning that you've got easily food to come back to and you can definitely rest and make the most of it. So you're all expected to wear proper footwear, which, as I mentioned, you have the complimentary use of the rubber boots to make sure. So they're in your cabin, you'll have that and your life jacket on before you leave your cabin. So you'll get ready, head down to the tender pit, and we do all of our briefings on the ship before you go ashore. This way, no time ashore is at all wasted. We want to make sure you know what to do before you leave the vessel. So as I said, only 100 guests are allowed to be on the landing site at once, which means we're rotating the boat group so that everyone has a chance to go ashore. And you will have ample time. Exploring landing sites is approximately up to 2 hours. Sometimes it can be 3, sometimes it can be less, depending on where you are and what there is to see. And of course, weather and ice dependent. But we do want to keep everything as pristine as possible. So Hurtigruten, one of our expedition team leaders, Truda Morgan, who's based in our UK office, he's actually a member or a chairman of IATO, which is the International Tour Operator Board for Antarctica. And we have an incredibly loud and fortunate voice as a part of the way that expeditions are run in Antarctica. So we are one of the, first and foremost to adhere to any rules, make sure we're respecting the wildlife and the land, and making sure that you know all about that, what areas are marked, so that way you can not disturb any wildlife, but still have the best experience possible. So you can see in this image, the group of people are following the same trail, and our expedition team will go and mark out those trails beforehand, so that way everyone sticks to the same path. Our expedition team are also experienced, they're qualified, but they're also employed by Hurtigruten. So we don't contract our staff, we do employ our Hurtigruten team members, and they generally do a 6-month rotation on board our ships before sometimes they then change. And that's so they get familiar with the crew, they're all family, they're all oriented with where the ship is going. And each expedition voyage is unique, and that team is there to handle those elements. With the expedition team, there are 24 expedition team members on board. As I said, they do give you your briefings beforehand, but both on and off the ship, lectures are held on various specialist projects. So we have expedition team members that are qualified in birds and marine mammals, oceanography and geology, perhaps it's sea ice and glaciers, the climate, the exploration history and storytelling, and of course, photography, to make sure that you get the best photos to bring home and send home to your loved ones. We all want to make people jealous with our photos. So as I said, we are a member and certified by IATO, the Association of Antarctica Tour Operators, and we are a big voice in that expedition operation. So traveling with Hurtigruten, you know you have a company that is always thinking of the local environment first. So land and sea activities, what can you do whilst you're there? So a lot of the landings are included, but you can add a few optional extras on. So the hiking will obviously take you on. You've got the small boat cruising. If you're brave enough to do the polar plunge, then you can definitely take your dip in the icy water. Nothing quite like waking you up. We do have kayaking available. Now that's bookable on board. That comes at about 239 Australian dollars. You can also add on snowshoeing and camping. If you are camping, we recommend that to be done, or if you'd like to camp, and of course it's always an attempt, but we recommend that you travel at the start or the middle of the season. So that would be technically now in November. If we were sailing right now, that's when you would be traveling. Towards the end of the season, that January through to March, there's too much snow and ice melting, and there's also larger penguin rookeries, so it's not as easy or safe to camp. Also, as a side note, children under 5 are not permitted to Antarctica and South Georgia. So if you do plan on taking little ones, they can go on any of our expedition trips, just not Antarctica and South Georgia. And we do require a medical form signed by the doctor for any travel to Antarctica, the Northwest Passage, Greenland, and Svalbard. But it's very straightforward. So of course, going to Antarctica, when is the best time to travel? I think that's the question that both myself and I'm sure the team at Bigton Travel get asked most frequently, is when is the best time to go? In reality, there is no bad time to go. It just depends on perhaps what you want to see, when you can travel. But as I said, right now is when we would be kicking off our season. Obviously, right now we're unable to be there, but for future, the season starts end of October, start of November, and that's what we call our Antarctic early summer. So that's when we have the mating season of the seals and the penguins. So you won't see the chicks just yet because they haven't been born, but they start building their nests of the penguin colonies. With the start of the season also, it's also when you can do ice landing. So if you can see the image behind me, that is at the start of the season where the Roald Amundsen actually can drive up into the ice and park straight into the ice because they are an ice class ship, and we can actually disembark straight off the ship straight onto the ice. Because there is still quite a lot of sea ice at the start of the season, we can do that. It's also quite clean at the start of the season. I don't think people quite realize, but once all the birds and the penguins start moving around and all the penguin chicks are born and they start moving around, naturally the ice and the icebergs and the land do get quite dirty. So at the start of the season, you do get that more pristine ice and snow. December, January is your Antarctic high summer. So hatching of the penguin chicks, the fur seal pups in South Georgia, and you get the warmest time and the longest days. And then we move into the late summer where you get a lot more whales and also a lot more beautiful sunsets coming in to that autumn time. So that's your general schedule. But as I said, there's no bad time to go. And the wildlife calendar over these times, which again, most popular time of year to go, is you've got October, November, so that early summer where the courtship rituals do begin with the penguins and the nest building and the egg laying, especially of the Adelie, the macaroni, king and chinstrap penguins. The elephant seals also start courting in South Georgia. In December, you've got the return of the whales. The egg laying and breeding season begins for the wandering albatross. It starts to be the weaning time for the Antarctic fur seal, so you start to see a few of the little baby ones, and the chicks are hatching and rearing of those penguins that were breeding. In January, that's when we also see the leopard seals starting to be weaned, the breeding season for the wandering albatross and the king penguins, and the penguins are being reared as well as the Antarctic fur seal. So you do tend to have a lot more wildlife starting to come out and play in that January time. And then February, March at the end of the season, as I said, is the best time to see the whales. You've also got the Magellanic penguins, which are breeding and rearing at that time. The southern giant and Cape petrels are also breeding, and the rearing of those penguins as well before they do start to take off. So no matter what time of year you go, you absolutely will have every chance of seeing a range of wildlife. So I hope that gives you an idea. But if you are in particular looking to see something, then hopefully you know which month now that you might like to travel in. So I'm just going to give you a quick snapshot of some of our itineraries. We do have quite a variation of itineraries, so I won't go through them all, but I'll go through a few of our key itineraries. So Antarctica, highlights of the frozen continent. So this is our MS Fridtjof Nansen itinerary and what we would call as our express route. So it's a fast track route to the continent. It's a 12-day expedition cruise. It's a 10 cruise night, ex-Ushuaia, but we do include your charter flight from Buenos Aires. So your tour will effectively start in Buenos Aires, and then we will travel you down to Ushuaia on a charter flight, and then you'll disembark and embark in Ushuaia for your cruise to the Antarctic Peninsula. Cruises in the later season, so if you are looking at February and March itineraries, you might see that they're a little bit longer because that's when we attempt our Antarctic Circle crossing. So you can see that the line there, we have the Antarctic Circle, and later in the season when the ice starts to melt, that's when that becomes a lot more favorable. So that's our lead-in itinerary. If you're looking to go a little bit longer, then we do have our MS Roald Amundsen itineraries. So 18-day, we have either 16 or 18 cruise night itineraries. This itinerary here for the 21-22 season is out of Punta Arenas, and that goes also out to the Falklands. Now, with the Falklands and this itinerary, again, later in the season is when we do attempt our Antarctic Circle crossing. For the 22-23 season, we actually change our home port to Ushuaia. So instead of doing Santiago to Punta Arenas, we'll do Buenos Aires to Ushuaia. And that's because we attempt to go further into the Antarctic Peninsula and go down to Marguerite Bay. So we're trying to reduce the amount of cruise nights out of Punta Arenas to change that itinerary. So you'll see that slight difference there, but this is our second itinerary for the 18 and 16 cruise night. And then for those looking for the ultimate expedition, a deep Southern Ocean immersion, you have the MS Fram. So she does our 23-day expedition cruises out to both South Georgia and the Falklands from Ushuaia. And again, from 22-23, she will go back and home port out of Punta Arenas. So from Buenos Aires to Ushuaia, she will move from Santiago to Punta Arenas. So you'll see those slight changes. Again, it's to maximize your cruise experience and from feedback that we've had over the years. So the Fram itinerary will have more days at sea to really give you an in-depth immersion, to talk to the expedition teams, listen to the lectures, and really have a hands-on experience at Antarctica. So they're your three key itineraries. We do have itineraries as they do circumnavigate that include the Chilean fjords and coming up through Montevideo at the start and the end of the season. So you'll see those as you start to explore what time of year you can go and what type of itineraries you'd like to see. But we do, as Barry mentioned, and what we have at the start is exclusive to Hurtigruten Australia and New Zealand is our new Antarctica packages, which are including flights. So this is including international flights. So our flights are already included internally, so Buenos Aires to Ushuaia or Santiago down to Punta Arenas, but now we've included new Antarctica packages. So these are for our 21 and 22 season and also our 2022 and 2023 season, which has just been released this week. So you really have almost 2 years, 3 years to actually look at any departure dates and book your bucket list item. And I think that because of there's not many passengers on these ships, there's not a big season to choose from, that once people start changing their dates from this year to next year and planning their bucket list trips, I do believe that these will start selling out nice and quick. So what's included in these itineraries? So all associated transfers for you once your arrival in South America, so airport to hotel, right through to the ship and vice versa at the other end. You have additional pre and post accommodation nights. So our standard tours that I just went through already include some pre and post accommodation in Buenos Aires and Santiago, but we've added in an extra night or two at each end. We also have round trip economy class airfares from Australia and New Zealand with LATAM. And then also charter flights to and from the ship, as I said, if required. Some of them won't require charter flights if you're taking a cruise that sails out of Santiago or Valparaiso. However, if you're doing the standard itineraries that I went through, then of course we include that flight. So you can see some of the examples of the hotels that we use in Buenos Aires, the Hotel Embrador or the Mandarin Oriental in Santiago. So for the packages that I've just gone through, now these prices are all ex-Perth, so departing Perth, we include your domestic flight. So that highlights of the frozen continent is available from $11,299 per person, including your international airfares, your additional pre and post accommodation, all transfers, charter flight to Ushuaia, and then your cruise, including your breakfast, lunch and dinner, and all inclusions we've already been through. As this is on the Fritjof Nansen, that's based in a leading category of what we call a polar outside, so a cabin with a window. So $11,299, incredibly affordable and such good value for all of those itineraries. So you can start, as I said, planning your departure anytime between 21 and 23 season, and that's applicable across all of these. For the destination Antarctica, Chilean fjords, and the Falklands for the Roald Amundsen itinerary, this starts at $14,299 per person, again from Perth and in a polar outside cabin, given that it is on the MS Roald Amundsen that doesn't have inside cabins. On some of our itineraries for the Roald Amundsen, our standard tour is only about $500 less, and you're already getting all of these added extras, including flights, that there are some incredible savings for some of these packages. And then if, as I said, you're looking to do the absolute ultimate expedition, Then we do have the MS Fram traveling the ultimate expedition out to South Georgia and the Falklands from 18,799 per person departing from Perth. And this one's based in a leading category, a polar inside on the Fram. But of course, on all of these cruises that I've just looked at, you do have the opportunity to upgrade. You can just talk to your team at Bigton Travel. I know that we're in a bit of a strange climate at the moment, given the current state of the world. You know, I'm sitting here, we're all doing armchair presentations, and I do definitely look forward to when I can next get over to Perth in person to be able to see everybody. So to give you peace of mind, we do currently have our Book with Confidence policy. So this goes hand in hand with these Antarctica packages, and it's to take the risk away from you and give you peace of mind when booking your 21 and 2022 voyages. So if you book on a cruise until by the 31st of December, so these Antarctica packages are valid until the 18th of December for sale, but all of our Antarctica program with or without flights is available anytime. But if you book one of these cruises by the 31st of December and you choose to cancel for any reason in the future, no questions asked, then we will promise that you'll receive your refund back, including your deposit, within 14 days. So these expedition cruises require a 20% deposit within 7 days. But if you choose to cancel at any time, you have that peace of mind. So that way, if you are interested, you think it's worthwhile putting your deposit down, because we know that these ships traditionally fill up super quick, especially with these packages, but you're just not sure where we might be in another 12, 18, 24 months, then you have that peace of mind. And we work very closely with Bigton Travel to liaise with that and make sure that any of your questions do get asked and that that money comes back should you wish to move that forward. So have that peace of mind, take advantage of these amazing packages. I know I've gone a couple of minutes over, but if you do have any questions, then please reach out to the team at Bigton Travel. They're there, they're experts in all of these destinations and all things Hurtigruten. But I hope that's given you a little bit of insight as to how we operate in Antarctica, the sustainability stance that we are passionate about, and hopefully has given you some information and inspiration about planning your next trip to the wonderful continent of Antarctica. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Alex. That was incredible, and some not only great information, but some beautiful images as well. And as you mentioned, we've got quite a few of the team members here who have personally been to Antarctica. So if people have questions they want to ask, then certainly don't hesitate to give Carol, Phil, Nadia a call, because they've been there, they've experienced it, and can talk about it very, very passionately. Now, as you mentioned, those promotions that you have, they're available till mid-December, but I'm sure they will sell sooner rather than later. So if people are interested, no pressure, but just give us a call. We can at least search your itinerary dates that you're interested in, check the availability, etc., and even hold an option for a week or so to allow you to put other things together if you're doing anything pre or post in South America, of course. But mostly a huge thank you to you, Alex, for giving up your afternoon on what is a public holiday in Melbourne. So really
pleasure.
appreciate that. And we hope we've inspired our listeners to consider Antarctica for next year or beyond. Thanks again.
Fingers crossed. Thanks, everyone. Really appreciate it.